Some of you asked me before and even commented on that I must be born to be strong, to be good at martial art, to be athletic. The truth cannot be further away from that. The Steven Johnson syndrome left me as a very, very weak child. I remember all the time when I was growing up, I was always sick. Every week, every month, on the average, I was in the hospital or at the clinic at least 4 times, 5 times a month. Always cold, infections, and I was always the smallest and lightest child in my class. And of course, kids will always be kids. Kids are cruel. So I had my share of being bullied, being picked on in elementary school, kindergarten, and even at home. Being a very competitive family, my siblings, my parents didn't really give me any slack just because of my eye condition. I was expected to win races, I was expected to do good in school, I was expected to be strong. Finally, when I was 8 and a half, around that age, my parent hired me a private Taekwondo instructor and started me on this road which I will probably be walking for a long time yet. How many?
How many is that? 20.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 20. I remember hating every minute of my first experience with martial art. I thought the instructor was cruel, was mean, and I thought the whole exercise without purpose. In fact, many times I wondered, what did I ever do wrong to deserve this torture? I remember my first lesson. The instructor took me by the hand, told me to take off my shoes, and we ran barefooted around the city block. For 8 or 9 or 10 times, I can no longer remember. All I remember is we ran until I skinned my foot so bad that he almost had to drag me, and I was bleeding heavily, leaving a trail of blood behind my right foot. That was my first Taekwondo lesson. It was not until several years later that I would find out that my first instructor, Mr. Yang Lee, would turn out to be highly prized extremely effective and would go on to win 3 silver medals in the Taekwondo competitions in Asia. Of course, my family paid a fortune to hire him back then, but of course at the time I didn't give a damn. I hated him. I hated the lessons. But like any young kid, as soon as I learned my first few moves, the straight punch, the front kick, the side kick, I started to feel this empowerment, this sense of power. And like many kids at that age, the first thing I used my martial art on was to beat the crap out of my classmates. All those who bullied me daily, all those who would laugh and jeered at me. I remember I got into so many troubles for that just within the first month of me learning Taekwondo. The first real use I put my newfound ability to was almost a year later. I remember it was a hot summer afternoon. My parents and we were going to go somewhere. I can't recall where. I remember my father left his car key in the office. So he told me to stand by the car, and he was going to go upstairs to fetch the keys. And my mother had to go to the bank. So I was left standing by myself by the car. And about 3 or 4 minutes later, this strange guy came over to me and said, "Hey kid, your dad sent for you. I'm told to take you to him." And of course I said, I don't think so. I don't know you. I know everyone who work with or work for my dad. So I'm not going with you. And the guy reached out and grabbed my wrist and started to pull me away, and right away my instinct kicked in, and rather than screaming, I did a very classic Taekwondo basic front kick right to the groin. When my father came back, the guy was on the ground, bending over, holding his groin, swearing like mad. And when he saw my father approaching, he limped away and drove off in his own car. My dad asked me what was going on, and I told him. I bet my parents, at that moment when they heard what almost happened, what could have happened, they were very glad that they decided to pay for a private instructor for their weak and usually meek son.